Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now surf disciplined performer, and of course, multi-family real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Jules Mckenzie. Hey Jules, how you doing, man?
How you doing, Barry? Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very happy to have you. Jules is out in Orillia, Canada, right?
Yes.
And you tell me the weather's absolutely beautiful there, but mind you, you've had some cold weather this winter. You were saying -20. That's I can't even imagine how cold that is. So, hey, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Really excited to jump into today's conversation. But before we do that, do you want to kind of give us an introduction into who you are and what you've been up to?
Absolutely. So once again, my name is Jules Mckenzie. My daytime full-time job is a police officer with the Rama Police. We police Casino Rama in the First Nation territory of Rama. I'm married, very fortunate to be married to the beautiful Miss Ange Mckenzie. Together we have 3 children. They're all adult children now. We've been investing in residential real estate for, probably since 2001. And most of it, if not all of it now, is in Orillia. But at one point, we kind of spread ourselves out to Barri, Ontario. There's a town named after you, Barri. So you travel up here, come and visit Barri. We also invested in Woodstock. I had a half a dozen condominiums down there at one time. And, now we just kind of consolidated things and, just make it more manageable, bite-sized pieces. We also manage all of our own rentals.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very interesting. How did you get started?
So interesting. I'm going to try and keep it concise, but in the early 2000s, maybe even before that, around 1998, we transferred to the area. I was formerly with the Ontario Provincial Police, and I transferred to Rama to train the new First Nation police officers they were hiring. I coached 4 officers in 2 years, back to back, after having a near nervous breakdown because it's a lot of responsibility. They offered me a full-time job. Right about the same time, I came home from work, and there was an individual, a well-dressed individual, and some other well-dressed individuals sitting in my living room. And this guy was drawing circles on a whiteboard, and it was my introduction to the Amway business. My wife kind of pulled me into that. And while we didn't make any money in that particular business, I actually did read the books. I listened to the cassette tapes. That's how long I've been around. And went to the seminars. And very quickly, I realized that there's so much more to life than just, getting a job and trying to ascend and climb the corporate ladder, getting promoted to sergeant and getting promoted to staff sergeant and all those kind of things. Well, I did a lot of time on the road, cold calling people, cold contacting people, showing the plan. It wasn't yielding the results that we were looking for. My wife pulled me back out of that business. And, I told my wife at the time, I said, my brain has been stretched out like this. And you want me to quit this business and push it back in? I can't do that. Lo and behold, right about that time, we saw a TV infomercial for a real estate seminar that was coming to Mississauga, Ontario. And I said, real estate, renting out income properties. I think that's something that we could do. And we went out for the free evening course. And of course, we were crazy enough to sign up for the all weekend. And lo and behold, that's how we started. We did start out buying rundown real estate, and quickly got into trouble because we didn't have a very definite strategy or a plan how to purchase these properties, renovate them, rent them out, and very quickly we were in financial trouble. Like I had extended my credit lines extensively, and we got into some trouble. There was vacancies in 3 income properties that we had, and I was out of money. I didn't have any more credit. We had vacant apartments that needed renovation. We had no means of doing that. And there was a mentor that I was working with at the time. His name was Darren Weeks. And he invited me to one more seminar. And I remember my wife was, she was pretty discouraged by all this stuff going on in our lives. Our children were small, then young, and we were kind of nervous and scared. So I told Darren, I said, hey, man, I'm done. Like I don't see any other way out of this thing other than bankruptcy. And he says, man, you got to come to Toronto. Don Campbell's coming to Toronto, and he wants to open up a chapter of his real estate investment network in Ontario. And I was like, what is the real estate investment network? And he said, you got to come and check it out. So I went down to the seminar. My wife said, don't go. And if you go, leave the credit cards. Don't sign anything. Don't buy anything. Don't do anything unless you check with me first. And I said, oh, of course, absolutely. So I went down to this thing by myself, and I'd already been invested in personal development and growth. So I had my own business cards, and I was introducing myself as a real estate investor. And I was at the back of the room, and I didn't even realize it, but I met Don Campbell in person. And he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Orillia. He says, oh, interesting. And I said, yeah, it is. And then his talk came up. And this was during a weekend in Mississauga. Raymond Aaron, a popular Canadian author, was putting on a seminar, and Don was one of the speakers. And he did his talk on the top 10 towns. So he introduced this talk as, economic fundamentals, why towns and properties appreciate in value, and which towns you should invest in. So a lot of the fundamentals were, things like transportation improvements, population growth, jobs coming to an area, those kind of things. And then he started naming off the towns. So he started out with the Junction in Toronto, which this was probably around 2003. Back then, the Junction would not be a place, even at my stature and my background, I wouldn't walk through at night. It was pretty rough, tough area. He started talking about Hamilton. Hamilton was not popular back in those days. He talked about the Durham region, Whitby, Oshawa, Pickering. He talked about Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. And I thought to myself, well, at least I know where I should have been investing my money at, this time around, but I didn't. And then he said, if you are invested in this top area, and he went from least popular, number 10, to popular in the range of 4 and 5. And then he said, the number one area to invest in residential real estate is the Simcoe Shores, Orillia, and Barri. And I was just like, what? It just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, when I turned to the people at my table, I was in the back of the room, total strangers. I said, did he say Barri and Orillia? And people are like, yeah, dude, he said Barri and Orillia. Barri and Orillia, he said that for real? And I just lost my junk, and I started jumping up and down, cheering, yipping and hollering. And I remember Don at the front of the room looking back and said, and I suspect if you want to learn anything about Barri and Orillia, you can look at that maniac jumping around in the back of the room. And that was me. I was so hope-filled and, reinvigorated. And, I saw that there was light at the end of the tunnel and possibly a way out. Now, we did have to go through some financial hardships, but joining the Real Estate Investment Network in Canada, in Ontario, was what really turned it around for us and caused significant growth in our portfolio. I learned a thing in real estate investing called joint ventures, and I know that that's a term that's just splattered around everywhere in the investing world. But I really resonated with that. I listened to a speaker, Tim Johnson, talk about the idea that when you run out of money, you bring your knowledge and your expertise to the marketplace. So you find a deal, you bring it to your fellow investors, and they put up the money. You put up your time, you put up the deal, and you put up your energy to look after and manage the deal. You form a joint venture partnership. You hold on to that property for 5 or 7 years, whatever the timeline is. And then when you sell, the investor gets back their capital first, and then you split the remaining equity 50-50, and that's when I get paid. And I tell you, that business model, at one point we had 50 plus income properties under our belt with investors. And you know, that supported us and got us through the tough times. There was a deal in Orillia, and I was very charismatic and very outgoing. Not that I'm not now, but you know, I was even more so back then. And I put it out to the realtors in Orillia. I said, if you got a big deal, you know, I'm in. I'm all in. I didn't have any money left. I didn't have any credit left. And my realtor called me and said, I got a deal for 38 townhouses in one complex. Are you in or are you out? Because my next phone call is to somebody I'm sure is in. I said, no, I'm in. So I went up, didn't even see the thing. I wrote the offer. I went to my wise old real estate appraiser, Wayne Scanlon, and I asked him, I said, man, I need at least 5,000. I need to borrow 5,000 for a deposit check on the offer so I can have this offer accepted. And he says, oh, I can lend you that money, no problem. And he made me sign a promissory note for 12% interest for 1 year fixed, you know, on that 5,000. It was the best money I ever borrowed because I was able to take that deal, all the details, and there were 38 townhouses, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath townhouses. I went to my next real estate investment network meeting in Toronto, and I pitched the deal. Here it is. And the rents were average $1,000 a month. The price of the homes at the time were $107,000 a door. And you know, the investors that I found bought into it. And I quickly raised a little over $1.5 million for the down payment and purchased all 38. And at the time, I did have bad credit, so I couldn't qualify mortgages. So they went on title, they went on mortgage, they put up the down payment, and my interest was secured in a co-tenancy and trust agreement. So I was a beneficial owner in all 38.
Wow. Well,
so I know that's a very long answer to what should have been a quick question, but
no, it's really, yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff. Well, it seems we just talked about the townhomes. Is that what due diligence did you do before you made the offer, or did you just trust that you have a good relationship? Did you know the area? Like how do you, because you said no, I want to make an offer. What made you comfortable with making an offer? You just knew that area, knew the properties.
Yeah, and I tried to be the geographical expert. I've always have been that. You know, I've always understood what rents were. I understood what values were. I understood where, you know, the working people were living. And I also knew what the war zones were. In some real estate training, you know, there's war zone. They talk about war zones where, you know, you can't leave your materials outside at night because they'll all get stolen, you know, that kind of thing. So I know I'm very familiar with Orillia. There's a thing in real estate investing that I learned from Rain. It was a 10% solution. So if you have a deal that's, you know, $100,000 and or 120,000, and the rent's $1,000 a month, you know, 12,000 of rent divided by the purchase price is 10%. So that's a good deal. Now you don't buy just on that. You have to do further due diligence. But you know, I was so enthusiastic and charismatic back then. I just went in all in. Like no, I didn't hold anything back. And you know, we did that deal. There's also 1% solution. Now, some of my fellow investors up here look for the purchase price to be 1% of, or the monthly rents to be 1% of the purchase price. Those are phenomenal deals. But as I'm sure you experienced, like prices and values have just skyrocketed, just gone out of control.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and like you said, these rules, like they're just rules of thumb to start off with, just something to qualify a deal. Because the idea is that if you have 100 deals to look at, you're able to, you know, use the 1% rule. Okay, this is close. Let me look a little further. No, this is a 0.3 deal. This isn't worth my time. Or this is a 2% deal. I definitely want to check this out. So
yeah,
for anyone listening, I think some people think that these are hard and fast rules sometimes, and I think it's important to remember that you've then, like you said, got to do your due diligence further and do some further and deeper dive into these properties. But I think it's fascinating that you then, you started out and, had a little bit of a rough start, but then realized the power of joint venturing, right? Because I think a lot of people are scared to partner to start off with. I'm going to do it myself. I don't want to give away any other piece of the pie. I just want to do it myself. But I think it's really cool that you found the joint venture, and it seems like your business exploded from there. And I think anyone listening, they'll be like, well, okay, this sounds great. I know, I understand real estate, or I love real estate, and I've been working at it. How do you go from that to then finding people who want to invest? Because a lot of them they want to invest in real estate, but they don't want to get their hands dirty, right? Those kind of, I'm sure a lot of times, the ideal private investor or partner for you is someone. How are you finding these people? How do you go and get these people to join you? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening and thinking, that sounds amazing, I would love to do that.
So it goes back to my affiliation and my membership with the Real Estate Investment Network up here in Canada. So in the local areas, and I realize that a lot of your listeners are from the US, I would go to meetups, real estate investing meetups, and meet other investors. And for me, it really is like finding those types of investors that don't want to, they want to invest in real estate, but they don't have the inclination to take the time to learn all the nuances. And they certainly don't want to attend the property or have to deal with tenants or deal with contractors or, record keeping or bookkeeping and all those kind of things. So, that's what I brought to the marketplace. And that's what I brought to my networking meetings. And I was ready to go. Like, I wear nice business casual type clothing. I'd have my bling on and my business cards ready to go, and just show up. 90% of your success is going to be showing up and fitting that role. People want to trust in you. They want to buy into you. So make your presentation of yourself the best representation of business acumen that you can.
Yeah, and then in terms of the actual networking, once you're there, how do you stand in front of the room, or are you just making personal relationships? How do you let people know what you're doing? How do you sort of try and create that relationship then? Because it's not a case of I think it's great for one. I think it's how you present yourself is important, right? If you're turning up in shorts and Crocs and holes in your shirt and you know what I mean, you don't have a business card, it's not going to give the right impression. But like you said, if you address smartly, present yourself, you have business cards, but you can't just go around giving business cards out and then hoping that people call you and then that they're going to give you money, right? Because you hear it a million times over, it's a relationship business. So how were you able to get people to come into your network and to be able to persuade them that, hey, let's partner, right? Because it's scary for a lot of people. They're not just going to give you the money. You've got to earn that right for them to give you that money.
So I think that I had a somewhat of an unfair advantage in my early years of investing. Like I said, our mentor up here in Canada was Don R. Campbell. He's kind of stepped back from the investing and seminar scene. But before he did, I attended that Raymond Aaron seminar, and I personally met him, shook his hand, gave him my business card, told him what I was trying to do. And from the front of the room, he introduced me, and he said if I was looking to invest in these areas, I would speak to somebody like Jules. And that was huge for me. And outside of that, I went to those real estate investment networking meetings or seminars, for lack of a better term. And between presentations, you would have a presentation that would run for 25 minutes to 45 minutes. And then there would be a 15 or 20 minute networking break. So you know what? On your networking break, get off the chair and go network, go meet some people, go talk to people, tell them what you're up to, give them your business card, shake hands. I guess we can't do that right now, but eventually we will. You gotta get out and, I think that I'm grateful for the experience that I had during my short period in the Amway business, because I actually did learn how to sell and present myself. And, I'm always going to be grateful for that. I didn't make any money doing network marketing, but I certainly took those skills that I acquired and applied them to my real estate investing business.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, like you said, it's more than anything. I think everyone has somewhat of a fear of networking, right? And speaking to people. But what you'll find with a lot of these events is that people are very friendly and they want to be talked to. So if you actually take the initiative and go to talk to someone. You took that burden off them because they're there to meet people. They're not there to sit in the corner. They're just doing that a lot of times because maybe they're a little bit shy or afraid to go talk. So if you can do that, people will open up to you. And like you said, just let people know what you're doing, right? If you let everyone know what you're doing, someone's going to be interested. Everyone's there for real estate, right? They're interested in real estate because they're at a real estate event. So if you can just let people know. I mean, you said that you use some of your sales. Is there anything that, some of the tips or tricks that maybe you can sort of advise people on when
Just
they
hang
come
on a
to?
second,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Okay.
So when I when I was doing the renovations myself, and I did do some of that stuff on my own, I was able to sit down with people kneecap to kneecap and show there's a bit of a glare there, but you can see there's a before and after.
Yeah.
So, there's another before and after.
Yeah.
And Barry, this is just a photo album. This is how I raised, millions of dollars to do my real estate deals. So I showed them that, I put the work in. I did some of this. I did some of this stuff. So that builds credibility when you're able to show them visually, and not only the pictures, but you got to show them the number flow as well, and what your projections are. So some of it is definitely sales, and the charisma that goes with that. But also you got to have that analytical side that you can show the numbers and show them in a meaningful way that flows. So yes, we're paying $107,000 a door, but we're also renting these units out for $1,000 a month. That those numbers for sophisticated investors make sense. And you need to learn the language of sophisticated investors in order to communicate effectively with them.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And I think for people who are just listening, he showed me he had a little folder of pictures of before and after, actual pictures, right? Not on the phone or anything like that. I love that. But it's great, right? It's proof of concept, proof of the work that you've done. It's the success that you've had, and I think that's great. If you can have a little bit of success, I always see that anyone's had a little bit of success. If you talk about the success, people are drawn to that because people want to be part of that success, right? That's what they want. They want that success. So if you've had that and you can talk about that, people will want to be involved in that with you because of that success, I feel like.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
How did that deal turn out? So it was 38 townhomes? How long?
38 townhouses, woo! That was a big deal. So I actually hired a property management firm to look after all the homes. Mm-hmm. And that was my biggest acquisition in 2005. Mm-hmm. There was another group of townhouses from a builder. I didn't pull the trigger on that one, and we could talk about that later. But on this particular group of 38 townhouses, I managed to raise the money to purchase them. And from 2005 till about 2015, we had sold ones and twos here and there. I had 6 investors in that deal. Of the 6, some had as many as 10 houses, some as little as 1 or 2, and slowly we sold off some. In around 2015, a couple of my key investors, bigger investors, I had 22 of the homes left, and they were business corporate-y type people from downtown Toronto. And they said, look, I'm 67 years old, I'm 70 years old, I want to retire, I want to get my money out and do what I'm going to do. So right about the same time, in Canada, we have the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. They decided then in Canada that an investor should only have 5 non-owner occupied mortgages. So that was fun, going out to, because I had 22 homes. I had investors that wanted to get out. So I had to put my information together and go to lenders, bank lenders, and I'm doing this. I wasn't begging for money, but I was trying to qualify mortgages. So to make a long story short, in 2015, I managed to qualify 11 mortgages. And one of my investors who was also pretty hands-on type of guy, he says, well, why don't we split the 22 between us? I'll pay you out on 11 and you pay me out on whatever houses he had. And anyhow, to make a long story short, I qualified 11 mortgages. We split the portfolio in two, and then Ange and I just owned 11 of those houses, and we held on to those for the next 5 years, 6 years. We sold the last of the two houses earlier this year, and we reinvested a lot of that money, unfortunately, into our bed and breakfast. We paid out some mortgages on other small multifamily properties that we own, and we're sitting pretty good now. I got 2 more years of policing to go, and I'm gonna cash in my chips on that career. And I'm looking at expanding my knowledge, and I'm looking at expanding my business acumen into more commercial real estate type deals, commercial office, commercial retail, light industrial, heavy industrial, land assembly, larger multifamily type deals. And I want to repeat the process that I had gone through in the early 2000s, meeting investors, building a portfolio, but I want to do it on a bigger and grander scale. When I look back now, I wish I would have dreamt a bigger dream for my wife and I, because we had accomplished so much.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. And the great thing about what you've done already is that skill of raising money is and bringing on investors is such an amazing skill, because once you learn how to do that, right, the possibilities are endless, right? You know what I mean? Because the biggest thing you're limited by most times is finding the deals and finding the money, right? And
yes,
really you can always, as long as you're resourceful, you can always find deals at some point, right? But the money can be more of a challenge because you're limited by how much you can buy, by how much money you have. But if you learn that skill, the possibilities are endless. So I think that's phenomenal that you've learned to hone in on that skill and that you're good at it. So no doubt you'll have some success in the future. Yeah, what a fascinating journey. And we didn't really touch on the short-term rental, that your kind of co-living space that you're in now. You showed me pictures before. It's amazing. You'll have to give a link to that at the end of the show, and I'll include it in the show notes so people can go check that out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
That's a cool project. But as this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, I like to incorporate some wrestling-related real estate questions. And the first question is, what would your wrestling name be?
Oh, geez. So as I talked earlier, one of my most favorite professional wrestlers was Roddy Piper. So I think in that spirit, I would be the charismatic Jules Mckenzie.
I like that. I was telling you before, I was fortunate enough to meet Roddy before he passed, and what a great guy he was. He was such a good human being. So
fellow Canadian too.
Yeah. What a character. What an absolute character. Every wrestler has a special move. What is your special move in real estate?
My special move would be the buy and hold.
Buy and hold.
Buy the thing and I hold on to it. I rent it out and keep it well maintained.
That's great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the buy and hold myself as well. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate career?
Well, earlier in our career, and I was talking about that earlier, that we didn't really have a strategy or a plan. We were buying rundown real estate, and that was from previous courses that we had taken that were not really Canadian specific, and that was a hard hit. So yeah, ran out of credit and cash very quickly. By taking training that wasn't very specific to our marketplace.
Yeah, and you said earlier on you didn't have a plan. What did you just take on too many properties, or did you take on too much rehab, or what was the issue there, you think?
So the issue was definitely buying rundown real estate, and I'm talking rundown. So the windows needed replaced, the furnaces needed replacing. It was dingy, and I didn't really I wasn't really trained how to plan for that. I do now, I know what to do now. If I were to take on a project like that now, but as of late, I just like buying turnkey stuff. So there's a ton of guys that buy and flip real estate properties, but there isn't a whole lot of investors that buy and hold. So I just kind of put myself in the middle.
Nice, nice, nice. So, so was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump, but you're too scared? What was it, and how did you overcome it?
So I didn't overcome it. Long about the time that we purchased the 38 townhouses, I was probably at my financial lowest, and this was during the early 2000s, and Orillia hadn't really started its big growth, its big run up in price appreciation. There wasn't a whole lot of people moving here yet. There certainly is now, and a developer in this town had completed a project, and it was about 50 townhouses. And his idea was, well, I'm going to sell it to one investor. And he contacted me, talked to me about it. And at the time, it's painful to think about, but at the time, I just couldn't fathom purchasing townhouses that were brand new. Keep in mind, like I'm hearing myself say this. I couldn't fathom purchasing brand new townhouses, brand new product for $135,000 a door. Like, this is what I thought back then. And now I look at those houses on the MLS, our local realtor.ca website, and they're selling for like $400,000 and $500,000 a door. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's easy to look back, right? It's easy to look. I look back sometimes and think, oh God, why didn't I buy more? Why didn't I do this? Why did this? But it's hindsight, right? You don't know at the time, so it's it all works out. I feel this is what I feel like. It all works out.
It works out. It works out for you the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jules, man, what an interesting story. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really, really, really interesting. We didn't even get into the CrossFit and the training and all that stuff that you do. So maybe another time.
Maybe another time. We'll do a part B.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but before we go, if people want to reach out to you, if people want to hear more about what you've got going on, how can they get in touch?
So I'm on the Instagram, and I think that's how you met me.
Yeah.
So it's at Mckenzie.Jules. So spelled McKenzie.Jules. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Jules Mckenzie, spelled MrJulesMckenzie. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Very simply, my first and last name, Jules Mckenzie. And I'm happy to share stories or give advice or hear about what you got going on. It's all good.
Very good, very good. Well, have an awesome rest of your day out there, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you.